And we're approaching the striking Verizon workers here in Ithaca, New York. And we're approaching them now, yes indeed. Let's see what they have to say. I'm sure they'll have something to say. Morning. How are we doing?
How are you?
Oh, pretty good. We're from Pegasus Channel 13. We thought we might like to cover what's going on here. Is there somebody who'd like to speak? What exactly are you striking about? I mean, I have some kind of background on this.
Well, there's many issues at the table right now with Verizon. Benefits, job security, pensions, you name it, they want it all. And basically what now we're trying to do is trying to keep what we've got and negotiate in good faith and have a level of respect at the bargaining table that Verizon refuses to extend on our behalf. So they left us no choice but to go on strike at this point in time until they come back to the bargaining table willing to talk fairly about the issues. This is what the result of this is until they do that.
So that sounds good. Now I understand Verizon's made their quote-unquote last best and final offer. They've offered more of a pay increase, closing fewer centers, but you still have a lot of concerns about outsourcing and long travel times.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to ship out what techs they have into vacuums they've created and their footprint. Rather than hiring people for the areas that they need them, they want to mobilize the workforce to that degree where you're working here in Ithaca and tomorrow you could be working in Boston, Massachusetts. And they want to do this for 120 days at a time. And if you figure this out, I mean, 3 out-of-town tours equates to an entire year. And if there's a position in that area that requires 365 days of employment, they should create a position for that area, not shuffle people around to fill their holes that they're creating.
Right, I understand they were talking about closing 30 centers.
Yeah, I'm not really certain about the specifics. Not being at the bargaining table, I don't really have access to legally be able to speak on behalf of Verizon, let alone CWA. But these issues that they're bringing up, the closing of the call centers is an issue in New York State right now. I believe they want to close 5 call centers. The head count, I'm not exactly sure how many jobs that equates to, but getting rid of good jobs is just not the answer, in particular when a company makes $1.8 billion a month in profit since the beginning of 2016. There was a point in time when a profitable company, even amidst of the Great Recession, would share its profits with the employees that brought it to them. That's not what is happening here. What you're seeing is, my guess is their fiduciary responsibility to extract profit in every aspect of its business, including employees, and particularly at the expense of the employees. So this is the fight that seems to be entrenched right now. Until they look at us and view us as more of an asset rather than than collateral, then we're not going to get too much out of them.
Yeah, this seems pretty typical of what's going on these days in industry in general. I know, well, for instance, in the school district, they don't have the human resources department, they have a human capital department.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's the way Verizon is treated.
Yeah, you're looking at a multinational company that's just absorbed in its power. It's all and focuses on greed and capital gain, and at the expense of anything. You know, there doesn't seem to be any concern for its employees, from my perspective, by the way they're treating us at the bargaining table. We're just employees that are holding our line with CWA, but we demand respect from them. You can't get that by continually kowtowing to them every time they want something out of us. So we're at a point right now where we're hoping that they'll come back to the table and they'll treat us with respect and they'll negotiate in good faith.
Now, as a former Verizon wireless customer, I'll tell you, do you have a cell phone, and if so, is it with Verizon?
I personally have a cell phone with AT&T.
Yeah, I found Verizon to be rather expensive and not very helpful. So you have a cell phone, but it's with AT&T.
AT&T is who I contract out through. I like their service. They are the same union we are. That's a union shop on the wireless side. However, Verizon wants to keep Verizon Wireless. anti-union. They do not want organized labor in their wireless stores. So the price with AT&T versus what Verizon Wireless was offering me was a better deal. So it was really economically a decision, and personally too, to a degree. But that's how it plays out.
Yeah, understood. So when it comes to the outsourcing, is this the call centers that they're outsourcing, or
they want
what?
to close the call centers in general and outsource those jobs to, say, the Philippines and maybe India. As far as the location, that's their business strategy and vision and plan. I have no clue why and where they want to ship these jobs, but they should remain here in this country. It is an American company, supposedly.
They should. Yeah, I mean, I'm also a victim of outsourcing, not out of the country, but you know, when it comes to tech support, for instance, yeah, if you call like Dell tech support, you get somebody like, "Hello, my name is Chuck," and that's not real.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to guess that's something similar to what will happen if they outsource these jobs. If they eliminate them, you can almost rest assured they won't be back in New York State. It's just that many less positions, that less revenue, less tax base. It depletes an economy. It depletes local economies, and an aggregate as a whole, it takes down the economy in general. So outsourcing jobs is not and will not ever be a good thing. I mean, if you're concerned about the American economy, you have to be concerned about the American employee. And that's really at the heart of it.
So do you know much about, say, the Trans-Pacific Partnership or the TTIP with Europe, and how does this fit into that as far as you know?
Well, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, I'm not sure if you're familiar with. CWA specifically went into a wrestling match with President Obama. He endorsed the TPP, and from a union perspective, we understand what these free trade agreements mean and do to the American workforce. If you look from 2001 to date, 40,000 factories have been shut down, millions, I believe the number is 11 million jobs gone. And the economic impact of that is being felt today. And I mean, you've had two different regimes from 2001 to 2016. Neither the left nor the right has brought a recovery to the American worker. You're still looking at a recession, a very anemic economy. The job unemployment rates, they don't really matter. If you keep an eye on the federal interest rate, that tells you what's going on in this country. And at 0.25% for, good 8 years now, it doesn't say too much about the economy.
Yeah, and in some places they're talking about negative interest rates in Europe and stuff like that.
That would mean that they would have to pay the businesses that borrow money to borrow their money, which is, I don't know how crazy that is. That's bizarro world right there.
Right. So in the context of all that, I mean, maybe you don't want to talk about this, but what presidential candidate do you think might actually help the situation? Do you think Hillary might, or?
I'll talk about the one that CWA members, because CWA is one of the few unions that actually allow its membership to vote on the nominee for the presidency. And CWA voted for Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, he may have a stump speech, and he's been pounding that stump for 40 years, but he's got his hand on the pulse of what's going wrong with this economy, and it's an unregulated system of capitalism that's by proxy taken over our democracy. I mean, most people don't realize that you need a system of governance to keep people together, but then you need a system of economics to keep something going, to keep people cohesive. When one gets stronger than the other, the American people are going to lose. So it's one of those things where people are going to have to wake up and know the difference between capitalism and democracy. Until they figure that out, I think we're going to be mired in this economic mess for time to come.
Yeah, it seems that capitalism and democracy are, in this country, confused, and in my opinion, personally, it seems like maybe democracy is a little overblown in ways, and you know, I hear talk about whether this country is a democracy or a republic. Do you have any statement on that?
I think it's a blend of both. I would have to say it's more of a republic, but every democracy has social infrastructures to keep the government running. You got your public water, you have your school systems, your firefighters. These are things that are vital to any kind of civilization. Commerce, on the other hand, is something that is an interplay within that system of governance. And when you start deregulating capitalism, you're looking at a free market rule. I think what you're seeing is a globalization of capitalism. That's why you see the TPP, the TIP, and NAFTA, CAFTA, and all of these free trade agreements. It's to colonize, I think, the global markets financially, and to also set up a free trade system so that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because free trade really hasn't equated to beneficials, well, particularly for the U.S. It has benefited some countries and brought competition in, but only at the expense of the American worker. And as an American worker, I have to be concerned about that. I'm not an executive, so I have to be concerned for my day-to-day operations as well as they do.
So all in all, really, the unions are putting up the good fight against this globalization in behalf of American workers and the local economy.
I would like to think something along that line. What you're seeing with the fight in unions is the fight for survival, as the union headcount has diminished. I believe it's down to somewhere less than 7% now on a national scale. And the best times that this country has seen is when unions were at their peak. And what you're seeing now is the decline of any civilization, because one of the things that greedy people do is they take more on their way down, and they fleece the public. And that's what's happening right now. They keep wanting more and more, to the point where you have to ask yourself, if you have everything, what more do you want? I mean, at what point does $1 billion satisfy your needs? Does $1 trillion? Is it all the money? And at what point, what do you do from there?
Yeah, and who's going to buy your products if everyone around you is poor?
That's right. That was the one thing that I know too. It's like, if everyone is out looking for work or on public assistance, everybody's wares they hawk in the society, it's going to become unaffordable. I don't know what to expect or what you'd see, but if you don't have money, the buying power in this country is gone.
So, what do you think the end game is here? Where do you think this is heading at this point? If it keeps going in this direction, where is this country headed?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. I can tell you right now, it doesn't look good from the road that we're seeing laid out in front of us. You see with Verizon and negotiations with CWA, it doesn't seem equitable, it doesn't seem fair, it doesn't seem conscionable, it seems immoral. And this is just one entity on the greater scale of commerce in the United States. And you're looking at, I think, the demise, or at least the outward declaration of war on unions as we know it.
And so is there any kind of cooperation between various unions? I mean, I know that the teachers union is under fire and constant attack, and do the unions communicate with each other? Do you know anything about that?
Yes, we do. We are all on board together. We're all starting to realize that we're all in this together as one. That an attack on one union is an attack on all unions, in particular in the public sector. We're in the private sector, but when you see, like with Common Core and going after the teachers unions, the teachers unions are just the beginning. They'll go after the firemen next, and then they'll go after the cops. And once they break the public sector unions, then it'll be just a simple stroke to go after the private sector. At which point, anybody that's looking for a wage scale set, they're going to be looking elsewhere, because unions set the wage scales for all other non-union jobs. Even non-union employees have a connection to unions. If they like a 2-day weekend, a 40-hour work week, benefits, OSHA, child labor laws, you have to thank a union. It wouldn't be here without it. And those who have jobs that are non-union, that despise unions, they need to think twice and look in their own backyard, see what they've got and how it got there. It wasn't because the company was generous and really liked you to the point where they slathered you with cash. It's because somebody in an organization worked out these hard details, and both, this is the best part, both come to a contract and sign it. So it's not just CWA membership that is endorsing a contract. There's also Verizon that will be endorsing a contract too. So there is a 50% share on the contract. And if you're engaged in a contract, both parties are equally held accountable. So you're seeing the union trying to fight for their cause, and you see what Verizon's trying to fight for their cause. They're not very open with what they want, and there's a lot of misinformation. So when we see a proposal, then we'll know a little bit more about what they're offering us than what they're telling us. So there's a big difference between the two.
And, well, I don't know if you want to comment on the teachers union's endorsement of Hillary Clinton in the context of all this, and where you think maybe she stands. She seems to be tied in with big money and the banks and all of that. why would the teachers union be supporting Hillary Clinton?
That's a good question.
You may not have the answer, and that's just fine.
I probably don't have the answer. I guess they're looking at the grand scale of things. Membership picked Bernie for CWA. NYSUT picked Hillary. That was their decision, and I don't know if one is any better than the other, but we'll see in the end. We'll see who gets elected. We'll see what they do for us. We'll see if it's all lip service or if they're actually going to rise to the occasion of the American worker.
And Donald Trump probably won't do anything for any unions, I imagine, since his stuff is all made in China and Mexico.
Sure. I can't comment on Trump. I do know that Bernie is what they call the left middle finger to the establishment, and I would say Trump is the right middle finger to the establishment. So,
yeah, what do you think of a combined ticket, like a Bernie-Trump ticket?
I don't see that happening.
Just a thought, or a Bernie and Rand Paul ticket.
I'd like to see a Bernie and Elizabeth Warren ticket.
Well, that's what I've been looking at.
But if you're looking at, I don't know if you're going to see a Republican or a Libertarian hitch their wagon to some leftist pony. I don't see that happening. I don't see a blend of two parties at the executive level. I do see Bernie controlling the message to the point that I think it's dialed Hillary to the left a little bit more. My concerns are her ties to Wall Street and the financial industry, because at the end of the day, it is Wall Street that is responsible for everything you're seeing, including the TPP, including the job outsourcing. Everything that Wall Street endorses, we felt the impact of. So Bernie's right on target when he's talking Wall Street, and I agree with him 100%. Whether or not he can deliver at the end of the day, you're looking at what happened to Obama. He agreed with virtually everything the right threw at him and endorsed it. Bernie, on the other hand, has the power of the veto. That executive branch is often overlooked on that respect. All the legislation that got ground out of Congress within the last decade went in favor of the wealthy and businesses. At the very least, I would like to believe that Bernie could stop that at the desk with a veto. A veto is a very strong, powerful tool that the president has, and I haven't seen it used much to the benefit of the people to stop this bad legislation. I don't know if Hillary will do it. I'm certain Bernie would, because he has not moved from his theme since he started, and that's why CWA voted for Bernie. But if he doesn't win it, I'm sure that we'll probably endorse Hillary.
So yeah, we've certainly digressed from the issue at hand. How do you see this playing out with Verizon?
I'm hoping that Verizon and CWA find mutual ground, and that there is movement on the contract, and that they do come to the table and find something that's equitable for both parties. That's what we're looking for.
And so what you're asking for now is what exactly? Can you enumerate a few things just to sort of sum up?
Because the bargaining table, and there's so many bargaining reports that come out, it shifts like sand on the beach. So what was relevant last night may not be important today. But like I said earlier, the pensions, the benefits, job security, the ability to negotiate at the table, these are things that are important right now. And I honestly don't have an answer for the particulars on those 5 items. So
and what about the closure of centers and like the long travel times they're trying to impose on you?
Yeah, we're trying to keep that so that it doesn't break up families, that it doesn't relocate employees. It's tough to have 2 residents. I don't know too many people that can. If you work in Ithaca and are expected to work in Boston for 120 days out of the year just for one tour, how does that equate to the family? How does that work out as far as a secondary residence? Is this something now that's an extra burden on the employee at the expense of the job relocation? We don't know these particulars just yet, but it will be a hardship for the employee.
Okay, well, do you have any other last words or anything? And would you like to give us your name? You don't have to, but you're welcome to. I'm Tony Orlow and
Jim Reeves with CWA.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And good luck. Give them hell.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.